It was a typical Saturday night, and Mark was delivering pizzas for the local pizza joint. He had been working there for a few months now, and he had never had any problems. But that all changed when he made a delivery to the wrong address. Mark was given an address on Elm Street. But when he arrived, he realized that there were 2 houses with the same number. He called the number on the order, but no one answered. So, he decided to take a chance and deliver the pizza to one of the houses. As he walked up to the porch, he noticed that the lights were off and the yard was overgrown. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Just as he was about to leave, a figure appeared in the window. It was a man, but he looked strange, like he hadn't slept in days. Mark felt uneasy. But he handed the man the pizza and took the money. As he turned to leave, the man grabbed him by the arm and pulled him towards him. "I didn't order a pizza," the man said. "Who gave you this address?" Mark was terrified. He didn't know what to say or do. He just wanted to get out of there. As he backed away, the man lunged at him. Mark ran as fast as he could, but the man was right behind him. He could hear his heavy footsteps pounding the pavement. Mark finally made it back to his car and locked the doors. He looked back and saw the man staring at him through the window. Mark knew that he was lucky to be alive, and he never delivered pizza to that address again. It was a slow night at the pizza place, and Sarah was delivering pizzas to the outskirts of town. She was given an address on the edge of a forest, and she knew that it was going to be a creepy delivery. As she drove up to the house, she noticed that it was abandoned and run down. The yard was overgrown, and the windows were boarded up. Sarah hesitated for a moment, but she knew that she had to make the delivery. She walked up to the porch and knocked on the door. No one answered, but she could hear strange noises coming from inside. It sounded like shuffling and whispering. Sarah decided to leave the pizza on the porch and get out of there as quickly as possible. But just as she turned to leave, she felt something grab her ankle. She screamed and tried to pull away, but she was trapped. She looked down and saw a hand reaching out from under the porch. It was covered in dirt and blood, and it looked like it had been there for years. Sarah managed to break free and run back to her car. She didn't look back until she was a safe distance away. And when she did, she saw dozens of hands reaching out from under the porch, grasping for her. Sarah never delivered pizza to that address again, and she made sure to avoid creepy houses at night. It was a dark and stormy night, and Jake was delivering pizzas for the local pizzeria. He had been working there for a few months now, and he had never had any problems. But that all changed when he made a delivery to an old, isolated house on the outskirts of town. Jake knocked on the door. But there was no answer. He called the phone number on the order, but no one picked up. He was about to leave when he heard a faint voice from inside the house, "Come in, I'll be right there." Jake hesitated for a moment, but he decided to go inside. As he entered the house, he felt a cold chill run down his spine. The lights were off, and the only sound he could hear was the sound of his own footsteps. Suddenly, the lights turned on, and Jake saw a figure standing in front of him. It was an old woman, and she looked like she had just risen from the dead. Jake tried to leave, but the woman wouldn't let him. "You can't leave now," she said. "I need your help." Jake was scared, but he didn't know what to do. He followed the woman into the basement, where he saw a group of people standing around a table. They were all dressed in black. And they were performing some kind of ritual. Jake tried to run away, but the woman caught him and dragged him back to the table. She handed him a knife and told him to join the ritual. Jake was terrified, but he had no choice. He closed his eyes and plunged the knife into the table. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the people had disappeared, and he was all alone in the basement. He ran out of the house as fast as he could and never looked back. He quit his job as a pizza delivery guy the next day and never went back to that house again. It was a busy night at the pizza place, and Mike was delivering pizzas as fast as he could. He was given an address in a sketchy part of town, but he didn't think much of it. He had delivered pizzas to worse places before. When he arrived at the address, he noticed that there were police cars and ambulances parked outside. He didn't know what was going on, but he knew that he had to make the delivery. As he walked up to the door, he heard shouting and gunshots coming from inside. He tried to leave, but the door opened, and a man grabbed him by the arm. "Get inside," the man said. "You're our hostage now." Mike was terrified. He had never been in a situation like this before. He was forced to stay in the house with the robbers for hours, as they held the police at bay. Finally, after a long standoff, the police were able to apprehend the robbers and free Mike. He was shaken but unharmed. From that day on, Mike made sure to pay attention to the addresses he was given and to avoid any suspicious locations. It was a slow night at the pizza place, and Alex was manning the phones. He received a call from a strange number, but he didn't think much of it. He took the order and sent the driver on his way. But when the driver arrived at the address, there was no one there. The driver called Alex, and they both tried to call the number back, but it was disconnected. As they were driving back to the pizza place, they noticed a car following them. It was a black SUV, and it had been tailing them for miles. They tried to lose the car, but it was persistent. It followed them all the way back to the pizza place, and then it pulled into the parking lot behind them. The driver and Alex were scared, but they didn't know what to do. They watched in horror as two men got out of the car and approached them. "We didn't order any pizza," one of the men said. "But we do have a job for you." The men offered Alex and the driver a large sum of money to deliver a package to a remote location. They were hesitant, but the money was too good to pass up. They drove to the location. And when they arrived, they realized that they had made a terrible mistake. The men were part of a criminal organization, and they were involved in illegal activities. Alex and the driver managed to get away, but they knew that they had put themselves in grave danger. They reported the incident to the police, but they were lucky to have escaped with their lives. From that day on, Alex and the driver were much more careful about taking orders from unknown numbers and delivering to suspicious locations.